And I think it's perhaps an uncomfortable truth that we have to kind of reckon with, that for much of our history, women have been settling for men that they didn't really want. And that's either out of necessity, economic necessity, or strict social obligation. There's recently been a study done by an academic called Joanna Pepin, and she's conducting research on what young people say they really want from their relationships. And that study found that just 5% of young women said that they would like a relationship with a man who works part-time or doesn't work at all while they work full-time. This leads to a problem because there literally aren't enough good men out there, if we use women's own modern romantic standards now. For example, statistically highly educated women will obviously want an equally educated or higher educated man, and these kind of statistics bear out on Tinder. For example, I think Rob Henderson pointed to something that if you have a master's degree in your profile, you're infinitely more likely to get more
I've seen
matches.
this, yeah. Or if professional occupation, master's degree, you tend to get more matches. Yes, I mean
Right. So
and physical attractiveness. I was just going to add. I mean, there was in a book I've heard you recommend before by David Buss, the Evolution of Desire. There's a statistic in there that for every decade since the 1930s, people have rated the importance of physical attractiveness more. And it's kind of, with the onset of the television age and then later on now the internet age, it seems like physical attractiveness has become more and more important as a kind of status symbol in itself. So if you talk about something like professional occupations, hypergamy, and status symbols, the mere fact of being physically attractive is seen more as a status symbol nowadays, perhaps, than it was in the past. That's at least one theory, I think.
Interesting, yeah, and I think at the heart of it is the kind of shift to online dating, and I think there's a statistic that 40% of relationships are started online now. So that kind of it doesn't give a chance for what I would call compensation game to kind of kick in. So
yes,
online, and if height is a big example for this. I've always had to kind of overcome my height. I'm about 5'7", and I can do so fairly well. But if it's all online, as it's kind of going that way, I might not even get looked at. There might not even be a chance. So, for example, you mentioned the online stuff, and I think it's called Tindernomics. So, you've heard of the 80-20 Tinder study? I think
the so-called Pareto principle, but applied to Tinder. Yes, and OkCupid showed something similar a few years ago as well, I believe.
Yeah, I think it's so. The bottom 80% of men in terms of attractiveness are competing for the top 20 or so percent of women, and the top 80% of women are competing for the top 20% of men. Just a small kind of section of men at the top. So it means kind of effectively you have a little bit of polygyny there as well, with a small few men at the top status kind of monopolizing the spoils, so to speak. I also came across a really sad piece of information about Tinder, and I presume it applies to other online dating as well. It kind of uses and it feels like I should have known this anyway, but they use like a social credit system, like a Chinese social credit type system, to determine which profiles are even being seen in the first place.